For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who and what are you celebrating tonight? First of all, I'm celebrating my birthday weekend. I want to thank everyone who took the time to call me or send messages on Facebook or text me or whatever it is that you took a moment or the time to reach out to me. It meant a lot to me. My goal and my hope is that I will live up to those wonderful messages that you all took the time to send me. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. I am Richard Skipper, and my show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists, celebrating whatever it is to celebrate. And I believe that there is a lot to celebrate. And I am so excited about tonight's show because we are celebrating a wonderful new book called If You Can Survive the Seventh Grade, You Can Be an Actor. And it's interesting, this morning, I go for a morning walk every morning around 7 a.m. And as I was walking this morning, I was thinking about my going into the seventh grade. And I was thinking about the seventh grade teachers that I was having. Seventh grade for me in Conway, South Carolina, was going to a new school. Many of the students that I had been going to school with from the second grade through the sixth grade, we all transferred together. But we were merging with a whole new group of students. There were people that I had grown up with, but then I was meeting people that I didn't know, people who didn't know me. And I was becoming who I thought they wanted me to be. And they were forming opinions of who they thought I was. Well, we're going to learn a lot about who I thought I was, who I thought I could be. And maybe that formed who I am today. Maybe it didn't. We're going to find out. But Matthew Corozine has written this incredible book, and I believe everything he says in the book. We're going to talk with him in a few moments, but before I bring him on, we're going to see a little film clip that will give a little background as to who and what he's about. But then we're going to really delve in and celebrate his true body of worth. Here he is.
I'm Matthew Corozine, founding artistic director of Matthew Corozine Studio. I'm from Westchester County, Peekskill, New York. That's where I was born and raised. I don't know why that makes me laugh. I mean, definitely my dad. My dad's a jazz musician. My uncle's a painter and a visual artist. My grandfather was a sax player and a jazz musician also, so I really came from that line, although I didn't go into music. I find acting and notes new emotionally and behavior to be music, and I think that's like playing jazz. And so I grew up around artists as a kid, so it wasn't weird for me to want to be an actor, but they did want me to be a teacher. They wanted me to go to school for teaching, and I showed them. I didn't, and now I became a teacher. MCS started 19 and a half years ago when I was directing a play off Broadway at the Sanford Meisner Theatre, ironically, which does not exist anymore. And I had a company manager at the time named Kathy Towson, who said to me, you know, Matt, the way that you conduct rehearsal with all these different personalities and 19 people, you should really create an acting class. And I said, well, all I'm doing really is teaching them how to act and listen and really be in the moment and be truthful, things that I took from my Meisner training. And she said, you need to lead a class the way that you lead rehearsal. She literally picked up the phone, or maybe it was even a payphone back then, and called Shetler Studios and rented me a space. It was for a Tuesday night. I think I had a class about 5 or 6, and I charged $15 a night. This is true. I was waiting tables, I was doing directing gigs. I just finished this play about Waco, Texas, and I started my first class 19 and a half years ago in the month of May. there was this ad for Backstage that I wanted to put in new Meisner classes forming. You know, it was like this awful ad. I only had enough money to do that or to get new headshots printed up reproductions. And my manager called me. She said, "You need new headshots printed up reproductions. Get them to me." And I was like, "I don't have enough money to do both." And I was like, "Well, I either do the headshots and I still be an actor, or I take this ad out and I really become an acting teacher." And I took the ad out. I grew up with knowing this is right, you are wrong, and this is how you floss. Like, that's it. So I took my shame, good hygiene, and I moved to New York City.
That's the quote.
Dental floss, a sex addiction, and I moved. And from doing, okay, we need to. Terrible.
No, it's not. This is good.
We're starting again.
My work is done. I don't have to do anything because it's all right there. So first of all, I want to say that Kathy Towson is one of my best friends.
Oh my gosh.
So when I tried to get her, she's working tonight. I was going to surprise you and bring her on. There was someone else that I wanted to surprise you with, and she was not able to be here this evening either. But she, well, just watch this.
It's Kathy, she's run from the cops. It's Kathy, she's run from the cops. Do you remember that tune, Matthew? I'm so proud of you, happy that your book is out in the world. I mention you or something you taught me when I teach probably like once a day. And being in class was like one of my favorite times in my life, and I can't wait to get back in there. So get ready, because here I'm gonna find a way. I'm just so proud of you, and like humbled and honored that you would mention me in there. It's like crazy. I'm Kathy Deach, everybody, by the way. It's me. This is me with my theme song. Kathy, she's run from the cops. I'll see you soon, love.
See, I read the book. I found her name and I reached out to her and she did that for me and for you, of course. So, as rolling on the scroll here, everyone, you see this, and anyone who comments tonight, questions that you may have for Matthew during the show, use the hashtag adaptability, and you may win this book tonight, because every day I pull up a word, and the word for today is adaptability. And there it is. And I'm pulling up a random question that I haven't even looked at to begin tonight with you. And we're going to this is going to be a way of just getting to know you in a way that no one has gotten to know you before. And this is the question. I am kidding you not. Can you see the question here?
No.
No.
I see a paper. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Maybe,
describe your worst date ever.
Well, this is true. I mean, I went on a first date with somebody who's diabetic. This is very, very true. In the 90s. It must have been in the 90s in New York City. And we saw a movie, Richard, and he passed out next to me from a sugar low, like this really, and I just met this guy. I didn't sleep with him, nothing, like we didn't even get that far, like it was like nothing. And then I had to help him up and then carry him and then get sugar into his system and get him in a cab. It was the scariest thing. That was the scariest date. That was the craziest date I ever had.
Well, that's a great opening tonight, because, my show is Richard Skipper Celebrates, and I want to know what you're celebrating. And today, believe it or not, is movie night. Yeah. It's Global Movie Night. So that's a great opener.
I hope so.
So what are you? You have this great new book out. What are you celebrating other than the fact that this book just opened? I see that you're back in New York. And for anyone who's watching anywhere else in the country right now, today, 60 degrees here in New York. Can you believe it?
Yeah, actually, now I'm back in Miami, but I am back in New York.
You are in Miami.
Yeah, I have a photo of the Brooklyn Bridge behind me. But yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, I'm celebrating Kathy Deitch right now on your show, Richard, and you surprising me. It's my wonderful life here. And Kathy Towson, I can't believe that those are two people that really helped build my acting class. I mean, Kathy Towson, they're both Kathys. I mean, Kathy Towson, from picking up that phone and calling Shetler Studios, she was my production manager for that show. And Kathy Deitch booking Wicked, my first student to book a Broadway show. And then she literally brought the ensemble of Wicked into my acting class, like I say in the book. And those are two really important people in my life. So I'm just celebrating those memories. That's cool. That's cool.
We're going to talk about a lot of memories tonight because you really go back in your book. But we're going to go back for a moment. I asked for a photograph. I love the title of your book, but we're going to go even further back. I think the photograph that you sent me is you in the second grade. Here you are. I love this photograph because it reminds me of me on the school ground at second grade. I think we all had this moment. Do you know any of the circumstances surrounding this picture?
I don't. A friend of mine named Kristen Lavinio, who I grew up with, she sent me that on Facebook maybe 12, 15 years ago or whenever the case was. And I don't, but I kind of like that I'm a little forlorn or like vulnerable and a little out of it and by myself against a pole. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's maybe I'm on a field, a baseball field. I don't even know. I can't even really tell. But I know that was Vancourt School in Cortlandt Manor, New York. I guess 1977, 78.
So the reason that I asked for a photograph at this point in our lives with all the interviews that I do is because to me, that is a vulnerable point in a person's life. To me, it's also the most purest point in a person's life. It's before, it's at a time when peer pressure begins to be added upon you. And other students are telling you who you should be. And it's not only the other students, it's who teachers are telling you who you should be and who you shouldn't be. Right now, we have teachers pulling books out of schools in this country right now. In Florida, where you are, it's what's going on is horrendous. I don't want to get political tonight, everyone, but I am so outraged by the fact that, you know, I read a quote earlier this week. I can't remember who said it, that when someone's telling you not to read something, go out and read it. Because what is the fear in telling us that we shouldn't know these things? So who were you at you know, at this vulnerable young age in that photograph before the 7th grade?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was unaware of being cool or how I looked, or I didn't have any awareness of that, right? So there was definitely an innocence of like not even knowing to fit in. Like, I don't think I even had that I definitely didn't have that language, but I didn't have that conversation going on about being liked yet. Like I don't remember being conscious of that. I remember just really being myself. Whatever that.
Did you feel comfortable at home? I mean, what was your?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I did and I didn't. I think I knew that I didn't quite fit in there, but I didn't.
I certainly didn't. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I didn't either, and no one really looked like me. No one really acted like me. I think my first memories, trying to get out of my crib and out of my play. I just wanted out, Richard. I just wanted out. And I think that was always me. Like I just felt confined into a space where I couldn't have been myself and I needed out. Like I just wanted to leave sepia tone Kansas and just go to, you know what I mean? I just wanted to be in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and not be I was a total fantasy addict. And now I'm learning that like, oh, I kind of want Kansas too. And that's cool. And there is just a man behind a curtain. And we've all been kind of gaslit to think that this is going to save our lives or being fabulous is going to be great, and maybe it's not so great. You know what I mean? So maybe let's just reconnect to our split self, which is kind of what my book is about.
Exactly. But when did the escape first begin to happen for you? When
it wasn't in that photo. It had to be junior high for me.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be puberty, sexuality world.
But I'm talking about when you first became aware of a world of theater, show business, acting. When did you begin to become aware of that, a world outside of quote unquote reality, whatever that means?
I would say, yeah, kindergarten. I would say kindergarten, being in a play, and I would say movies, TV. You know, I just wanted to be on TV. I just thought that was like incredible. And I mean, still is, right? Yeah. I just wanted to be in a musical. I just wanted to be on an MGM lot.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to be in the 40s in Pigskin Parade, like something bizarre.
And if anyone out there doesn't know Pigskin Parade, look it up.
Yeah. Like I just wanted to like, you know, be on a set and just like do that. I mean, I'm great. I probably wouldn't be alive if I was in showbiz at that young, you know what I mean? But like, I just wanted to be special or feel special. And I felt like people in pop culture and on television, that was like so special. And that people that could dance and sing, I was like, sign me up. Like this is the best thing on the planet. Like,
isn't it funny how we fit, you know, because I felt the same thing, how we have this perception that those people who had that were that.
Yes.
Which is not the reality at all.
Richard, I remember being like 12, maybe at a flea market, where of course, internet, you can get everything now, but like, and I remember being at a flea market with my mom, and I remember I saw there were albums, of course, you know, albums, right? And I'd collect albums. My dad had all Broadway show albums. My dad's a musician. So I grew up in that world. It wasn't like I had to like a secret, you know, Bye Bye Birdie album that no one could know. You know what I mean? There was no shame of that in my world at all. But I remember I found the Judy Garland album of 1969 London. And I was like, oh, this is the woman from The Wizard of Oz. Like I knew enough to know that. And I remember I asked my mom if I could buy it. I'm like, this is Dorothy. Wow, In and Out. And it was like her last album. I'm like, that's weird. I was born in 71. This album was made in 16. I'm like, oh, wow, she does. Like, I was and then I heard it and it was, you know, her voice was damaged by then and what it was. And now I kind of like hear it. And I'm like, actually, there were some good quality notes that she still had then, you know. But as a kid, I was like, what happened to her? Like, I got kind of obsessed with like, how did she go from that? That I'm no math whiz, but that's not a lot of years. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, that like shattered me, I think, to realize that was the same person.
Now I've got 10 years on you. So I was born in 61, but I grew up in a television household. So I grew up at a time, and they were still there pretty much, you know, in your first 10 years of your life. Variety shows were still on television somewhat. But did you grow up in a television household?
Yeah, very much.
And so you also had the luxury of living in close proximity to New York City and the theater. Did your family come into this New York City to go to the theater?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Andrea McArdle, Annie was my first show. Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I mean, that was the late 70s, 80s, that was my world. And going to the Westchester Broadway Theater, you know, which is recently closed, and an evening dinner theater, like going there with my high school, like that was what we did. And we'd go to the city. I mean, that was like, it was this weird world that you could go to, and then you get back on Metro North and you go home. It was very strange. It was literally like Kansas and Oz to me. It really was, even though Westchester is not that far, but as a kid, and second acting Broadway shows. I mean,
that was still in
Tyne Daly's Gypsy like 75 times when I was in high school. Like maybe that much, who knows, you know, but because you just, you know, before 9/11, you could just sneak in and watch the second act of anything.
But I want to go back to when you said that I think your first time on stage was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
But when was the first time that you were part of a theater company, whether it be, you know, in high school or junior high or something, where you were part of a group of people putting on a show?
Yeah, I would say high school. I mean, maybe a little stuff in junior high, but it was really high school. That was really like community, team. I became the president of the drama club. Like this was like, okay, this is my people. I'm a leader here. I do this really well. This is my people. It was just very natural for me. I think it was definitely high school for me. Yeah, definitely.
And when did you get on that track? When did you say, this is the path that I'm on? And at what point did you say to your parents, this is the path that I'm on?
Yeah, I would say junior high and high school. I think that, Richard, growing up in a Christian household, I think it was rebellious to be, I was like, I can be an actor because I think that was kind of an act of rebellion. Like I can curse and do things as an actor and that would be allowed. And I wasn't allowed to do as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you're allowed to be an actor. I think that was a form of rebellion for me, which is so bizarre. It was like, I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to do it. You know, and like I said in that video, and my parents were like, you can be a teacher and then on your summers go audition, you know, and I was like, well, I showed them, you know, and then I ended up being a teacher. Right. You know, but like, I think that was a form of, I just needed greater self-expression in my life. And I think it was junior high and high school. Yeah, for sure. I was like, I'm going to major in theater. I'm going to go to college and major in theater. And I'm going to move to New York and become an actor. And I did.
Well, let's go back to high school for a moment.
Yeah.
What was the seed that gave, it's a brilliant title. What was that? What gave you that title? Because well, first of all, I'll tell you, I was in the city. Unfortunately, a friend of mine recently passed away. I'm the executor for her will. And I'm in the city doing errands, and I had to go to close out her bank account. So I'm in the bank waiting for them to fill out the paperwork. And while that's happening, it pops up on my phone. Matthew posts a picture that the Drama Bookshop now has his book. Yeah. And what I loved about this picture was there you were that morning at the Drama Bookshop.
Yes.
So proud at the Drama Bookshop. I remember the old Drama Bookshop.
I remember the one on 7th Avenue, 723 7th Avenue. I remember that one too.
Before the fire.
Yeah.
And there you were, so proud that you were, it was like this, a circle. They're pointing up to your pictures of your books on the shelves.
Yeah.
And I immediately wrote to you.
You did.
And said, I would you like to come on the show and do the show? And you said yes. And I said, how can I get the book? And I said, wait a minute, I'm in the city. I'll go to the Drama Bookshop now and pick it up, which is what I did. I just went across town, got it. We booked the show. The show was supposed to be last month. We had a power outage that night. And you and I have been back and forth to get here. So here we are tonight. But so it took us a while to get here. But how did you come up with this title?
You know, I toyed with it because my logo for years is Get Out of Your Head. So I was like, maybe my book should be called Get Out of Your Head. And then someone else had a self-development book called Get Out of Your Head. I was like, I don't know. And then my friend Susan E. Isaacs, who wrote Angry Conversations with God, and she ended up doing a solo show, and I directed it years ago. She said,
reached out to her too. So
she's great. Oh, I love Sue. Oh, that makes me so happy. And I think she used to throw that around like, hey, Matt, if you survive junior high, you have enough material you can do anything in the arts. I think she used to say something like that. And I said, yeah, it's like surviving 7th grade. And then I would start saying that when I interview students who wanted to study at MCS. I'd be like, yeah, I'm a firm believer that if you survive 7th grade, that's when the wall gets built. And you got to get coached as an artist to be vulnerable and connected and go past what your brain did to you. And then people would laugh. And I was like, no matter what, like, even if they were actors or not, I'm like, I believe and I was like, I think that it's funny. I wanted something that had a little humor. I feel like that was very me, and it's very true. I just feel it's the best title I love it. I'm like,
I love the title. Really, but I got it immediately because, and it's not just the 7th grade. It's every aspect of our life. Yeah. I've seen people walk into a room, and they walk into the room, and you see it all the time. I'm talking to the expert here. When somebody walks into a room, and they can walk into the room very sheepishly, and no one will approach them, or they can walk into the room with a dynamic way of walking into the room, and everyone wants to be around them.
Yeah.
And it's just and that's what you talk about in the book, and it's what what we bring out and everything. And it's this Meisner technique that you have basically, taken not only the Meisner technique, but you have built upon it, and you have put your own stamp on it.
Yeah.
And you have
Thank
grown
you.
beyond that. So writing this book, I want to ask you, what have you learned about yourself that you did not know as you sat down to write this book?
I love that, Richard, and I say this in my class sometimes, and it's true. I'm glad I didn't write it 5 or 10 years ago when I wanted to, because I think my view of my adolescence, or even blaming of my parents, or not being able to see the whole picture, was not as clear as it was in the pandemic when I wrote the book, right? So I think that I learned was, wow, that was my experience of my parents, and not their experience of, they have a totally different story. Or like my brother and my sister have a totally different, we're 10 years apart. They have a totally different experience. We all had 3 different sets of parents in the same parents.
You're telling my story, Matthew.
And that I already knew, that like my brother will get up on Father's Day in his church and talk about what a great dad my dad was. And I'm like, what? I never saw my father. Like, that's so bizarre to me. We had 2 different parents. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm careful, Richard, of which card I buy for Father's Day. It's like, thank you for taking me fishing. Nope, can't use that. I end up with a card of the Statue of Liberty, but like something generic, and I love my parents, and I didn't want to bash them. It's funny, Richard, my mom's like, I don't know if we want to read this book. She thinks I wrote Mommy Dearest or something. And I'm like, Mom, don't worry, you're barely in it. And then she goes, Richard, I'm not.
No, when I wrote my one-man show about coming to New York, my sister called me and said, be careful what you put in the show. And I said, this is not your story. This is not the story. This is my story.
That's right. That's right. So I'm really glad that I had the perspective, and I knew how to frame that in more of an adult me now, of getting that it was just my experience, or it's might have how my brain saw it versus maybe than how it really actually was. So I was able to get that the mind needs to be right, and it will actually find evidence. So I knew I was rejected as a kid. I knew I felt rejected. I knew I looked for a rejection because my brain needed to be right. Whether it was happening or not, Richard, I don't know fully if I saw it that way, and you know what I'm saying? So I think that surprised me, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Did you
how I saw it,
forgive me for what I'm about to ask you, but I'm asking you through the filters of my own eyes. But did you feel rejected by your parents?
I don't know if I felt directly. I knew that I would be. So I split myself of my sexuality and growing up Christian in the 70s and 80s. And I knew that it was wrong. So I knew that I was wrong. And I knew that I couldn't tell my truth because I knew it was wrong. So I knew there was a perceived rejection that would occur. So therefore I was rejected in myself, of them, and from them. I remember in college coming out, and I remember my parents saying, I don't know if this is the best choice for you. They were never like, we're rejecting you. You know what I mean? I was never rejected out front.
It wasn't blatant.
It wasn't blatant. No, it was in me. Either I decided that or I knew that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would have been, if I did come out as a youngster, I would have been sent somewhere, I'm sure,
And your decision to write this book, do you think the book would have been written if the pandemic had not happened?
No. I think I would have talked about it forever. But I don't think I really would have done it. Something needed to cause me to do it.
So what was the deciding factor for you to write the book?
Yeah, my best friend Larry wrote a book. He did like a health and wellness book. And I was like, and he's like, yeah, I just hired someone to kind of help me. And now I got a book so it can help me get speaking gigs on. I was like, are you kidding me? You wrote a friggin' book. I'm like, I can write a friggin' book. Like, you're a nutritionalist. And I love Larry, he's the best. I'm like, if he did that, I just got to, I'll get like a ghostwriter. I'll get someone to help me. I'll do this, and I got my friend Brenda to record videos of me just asking me questions, and I just answered them, and then we transposed all the videos into a big mess of text, and I hired an editor to help me shape it.
So I want to talk a little bit about your trajectory in your career that led to where you are right now, because you're very successful at what you've done. And so you leave Westchester. There's a, if you've ever seen Stage Door, I love it when, she's practicing and I'm going to go up to Westchester. I'm going to go up to, you left Westchester and you came to Manhattan. When you left Westchester to go to Manhattan, how did you make that move? First of all, let's start there.
It was horror. So I graduated SUNY New Paltz up in New Paltz, New York, and my parents moved to North Carolina that year. So I couldn't go back to Westchester unless I lived with, people I went to high school with or something. So that my childhood home was gone, which on some level was emotionally, it played on me in ways that I kind of suppressed and I didn't know. And so I really didn't, probably should have stayed in New Paltz a little longer and just worked there and been there. But I lived in a friend's, literally $180.
Did your parents give you the option of going to North Carolina with them?
They did, but I'm like, what am I going to do in what is North Carolina? I grew up in West, I'm like, I'm not going with a theater degree. I'm going to move to, what am I going to work at a Cracker Barrel? What the fuck am I going to do in North Carolina? I was like, I'm moving to Manhattan with my friend Jill. I'm going to live on her floor on 83rd Street, which is true, with $180 in my pocket. Classic story.
Yes. And
I started waiting tables and I got an agent and a manager, and I auditioned and started getting soaps and commercials and some theater. And that really was it, Richard. But I had so much anxiety and depression of not dealing with the splitting of myself as a kid and then living in New York, and then my home was gone. I think I needed to create a community so bad because I think that forced me to create a family because my family was gone emotionally from me. And I don't know if they were ever really there, to be honest, emotionally.
Was it an easy transition, though, for you to start building your own community, your own tribe, if you will, in New York City?
Yeah, it was I think I was forced. I think I probably would have killed myself or done that. I think that was it. I think it got me off the streets, so to speak. I think it gave me a place to put my energy instead of drinking and sexing myself to death. I think I built an acting studio as a 20-something-year-old. I think that gave me a place to put all that anxiety.
So you're pursuing a career as an actor. You're doing the work. You've got an agent. You've got a manager. Many people don't get those two things in their life.
Yeah, and I got them right away. Yeah.
So you've got all those things going. When did the seed get planted that you wanted to move from being an actor to also being a teacher?
Yeah, I think it was studying with Robert Modica in the old Carnegie Hall studio theaters there in that, which is now apartment buildings or something, which is so sad, right? Yeah, and Wynn Handman was across the hall, and
oh my God! And Robert Modica. Let's talk about Robert Modica because I was in Robert Modica's. I went to his studio once, and I want to tell you, only one other person had a studio office like him, and that was Joe Franklin.
Yeah. Oh, I've been in that office on 43rd Street because my studio used to be in there. I loved Joe. I was on his show too.
So it was
Joe's room was even worse.
Hoarding,
yeah.
To the 10th degree, both of them. Robert Modica, everything, how he ever found anything. But Joe Franklin, you could say, I've got a photograph of Theda Bara, and he knew exactly where it was. And it was crazy.
Yeah, Joe Franklin was a personality. Yeah, Modica was a personality too. He
was phenomenal. What did you glean from Robert Modica? Talk about who he was for those who don't know. What you learned from him. You talk about him in the book, but what he brought to your life that he instilled in you as an artist, and what he instilled in you as a man.
Yeah, all of that. Thank you. I was 26, 27 when I first stepped in his classes, Richard, and he had to be in his 60s then. So to have a older person who was so honorable, he's a Korean vet. there's so much honor in him and loyalness. I mean, even the way I get when I talk about him, right? There's so much. He wasn't a theatrical, whimsical, airheady type of person. You know what I mean? He was really grounded, like extremely. And I think that to hear someone like that stand up and talk about acting and truth and connectedness was kind of like what I always wanted my dad to be with me. Like I always wanted someone to take me aside and be like, look, you're not okay. And this is what you need to do. You know, and I feel like I would never let anyone see that I wasn't okay, but I was dying for someone, Richard, to just find me one day and be like, you're going to be okay, kid. Come with me and I'll sign you to MGM. You know what I mean? I just want someone to tell me I was going to be okay. Like Richard, like that was my life. I didn't know it. I shoved that, right? That's all I wanted. And when I performed, I felt okay. It was 9 minutes on stage. I felt okay. And I belonged and I was part of something. And then the rest of the time, I was a maniac in my own self. So I think being with Modica, he was so certain. He didn't give a shit if you agreed with him. Like he just was, I needed that. I needed that. I just needed somebody to just lay it on the line, call me out. And with there was love there for sure. And he just wanted you to be truthful within your own self.
He was a great teacher, but I love in the book, there's a great section in the book, and it brought tears to my eyes, actually. I'm going to be honest with you. When you talk about you going back to him and telling him that you were thinking of starting your own class.
Yeah, and I tell that at his memorial that I emceed, and that was very controversial. And all my classmates were like against me at the time. Like it was a big thing. It was a bit, and later on, like people have apologized to me. Like it really was a black sheepy thing to do. And yeah, that was horrible. And I remember Richard, and I remember, maybe I should have, my editor kind of trimmed it down, but like I remember that turning the doorknob about to leave of that old studio, the door we'd slam and knock on for Meisner, you know, the amount of work I did at that door, and I was about to leave it. And then I just turned around and I just told him, hey, you changed my, and then that I just cried. And then that told him that I got the work. He crossed to me and hugged me and told me I will succeed because of my heart. You can come back on Friday nights or whatever he said to me. You know what I mean? But that, if I never said that, Richard, and I was like, I have nothing to lose. I might as well just tell him the truth. Like, I'm only doing this because he taught me all this and it changed my life. So that was a big defining moment of my life.
So do you feel that, going back to Kathy Townsend, who we talked about at the beginning of the show, I hope
Kathy Townsend later. That's incredible.
Do you no, Kathy, we did a show together called Tell Veronica at the Grove Street Playhouse. And we've remained friends ever since. Her parents were very close friends of ours.
Wow.
And many parties at our house. But do you think that her picking up the phone, making that phone call, in a sense gave you permission to do what you wanted to do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Kathy changed my life. Absolutely. And she was is a great curator of talent. I really think her talent, because that creative place or space theater, I did
creative voices.
I did so many shows there, and she, helped me so much through the years. But she was a great person of recognizing talent in people and really cultivating people as writers. Like, she was great with writers, but she was really great with me as a director of you need to be an acting teacher. Like, that really was from Kathy. Yeah, it was a natural progression of directing that specific play, but it really was from Kathy looking at me and being like, Matt, you're really incredible, facilitating in how you integrate and work with these personalities.
So that first time that you were standing in front of a classroom, and you've got people that are eager to learn from you, that are
suspicious,
I'm sorry,
or suspicious of me,
or suspicious, but they've paid. They have paid.
They paid $15. That's true. Yes, that's true.
Last night I was watching, one of my very best friends, Russ Woolley, if he's watching, he came over and we were watching these old YouTube clips on my smart TV, and we were watching these old Ethel Merman clips, and that's how we celebrated my birthday. And we were watching Mary Martin, believe it or not, was interviewing her,
Yeah.
and she said, "You've never suffered stage fright, have you?" And she said, "No. What is there to be afraid of?" She said, "Because my feeling is if those people out there could do what I could do better, I'd be sitting out there watching them."
Great line.
And anything I can do, they can do, I can do better. We laughed out loud about that. But they paid to see me. I owe them a good performance. And these students paid for your services, and you're in front of them, molding them essentially, or leading them on the journey. What was that experience like for you to make those first baby steps? Obviously, you had the tools behind you, but to be in front of a classroom for the first time.
I mean, it was thrilling. And I think my directing lent itself to that. I remember because that cast was so big, the show that Kathy worked on with me, that it was like 17 to 19 people. So I felt like it was a class. So I think that was like, I feel like I need to do this for a class. Like it really felt that way for me. So I think it was thrilling. I also was learning as I went, which I think the best of us do. And I was figuring out how to teach this and how to find my voice and not just replicate. Of course, you replicate your teacher in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like I modeled Modica in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found my own tools and tricks within the technique. But yeah, I mean, it was thrilling, Richard. It was absolutely thrilling and frustrating because I didn't know how to reach these people yet, or how to do that yet, or will they come back? And, the business side and like all of that stuff, then there's all that.
And how long has it been now since that first class began?
Almost 22 years.
22 years. And now you have classes. You've expanded, obviously.
Yeah.
You have classes in how many different?
So we have a studio in DC that runs. I do Miami once a week. We have Zoom, of course. And then New York, I have 3 or 4 teachers plus me teaching. Yeah,
and
a lot.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And to where you are right now. The business has changed a lot. What are the things that you have truly embraced as far as changes? Zoom, of course, is very important, especially in a pandemic.
Yeah.
What are the things beyond Zoom that you've really embraced in this business, pandemic excluded right now? And what are the things that you really struggle with even in today's changing world?
I don't know. I'm still figuring out what it is, right? As we reopen and figure this out, I don't really know what it is right now. So I think on some level, there's maybe a clean slate, and there's a little more equality of where we are and who we are and where we're starting from. Maybe depends who you talk to on that. But I think there's more of a opening of new ideas or new things, or nothing's work. If it's not working, let's try something. Mm-hmm. Let's throw some spaghetti against the fridge and see what sticks. I feel like there's more of a risk-taking availability because we're kind of screwed in building from nothing again.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more of an option to do something a little more out of the box,
mm-hmm.
and that people know that they really don't have control of things and anything can happen at any time. So I think the risk-taking factor is more attractive for people. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way.
And what was your process in writing the book?
Yeah, I mean, it was starting with those videos, and then I think eventually when you do something you've never done before, you're going to hit a point where you're either going to quit or you have to bring on a team. So I was like, I can't make sense of this. And I feel like I talk about repetition here and here, and I couldn't, Richard, I felt like I wanted to print it all and put it on the floor and then pick up the parts of the book and just put them together, literally like that. I probably would have done that. But I ended up hiring through a student of mine who published. She said, this guy's a great writer. He self-published. He made all this money. Why don't you talk to him? And I ended up hiring him, named Josh Rivdell, who's the best.
I know Josh Rivdell. Yes.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Wrote his own show, The Gospel According to Josh. And he wasn't a student of mine, Richard, which is even better too. So he was coming at it from years of non-Meisner, but yet got me, and he got my voice. And he really started, he said, you have a book. I was like, do I even have a book, or is this just a story? I just didn't know, Richard. I felt scared. I was like nervous. I was like, I'm going to just throw this out. I don't feel like I'm saying anything. I feel like I'm just quoting my acting teacher. Like, what am I even saying, you know? And he said, you definitely have a book here, and let's start shaping it. And then he'd start sending me drafts saying like, hey, this story's cute, but I don't think people that don't know you will do anything for the book. And like, let's just make it streamlined, simpler, and as truthful and honest as you can. And it really started to develop. And I was really, really pleased.
Is the book what you thought it was going to be?
No. Mm-mm. But I really like it. Like sometimes I open it and I'm like, because I kind of forget what I said in it, you know, and I'm like,
no, it's great. It's really a great book.
I really love it. I'm like super proud of myself. I'm like, I thought it would be like bigger and longer and maybe a little more textbooky, or I thought it would be very memoir-y, but it's kind of a little mix of both. Like it's a little bio, it's a little memoir, and it's a little self-development and a little acting technique. And I think that's very me.
Now, do you think there are other books in you?
Yeah, I feel like it could be a series, right? If you survive, maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I kind of like being an author now. I kind of like it. I'm like, I like it. Yeah, I'm proud of it.
So, what has been the impact since the book has come out? I mean, have you done speaking engagements with this? I'm sure you've done a lot of interviews, or...
Not yet, because of the pandemic. Things have been so strange. So you're really the first thing I'm doing, and I got it in Drama Books. And I'm doing here at Soho House in Miami. I'm going to do a book signing on the 28th, and I need to schedule my New York ones. I was waiting for COVID to kind of like chill, so we can all be in the same room. And I was like, as long as I do it this year, I don't think I'm in a rush that I have to do it in January or anything. So yeah, I'm kind of doing it now, and Broadway World is doing a whole thing on it next week. So that'll be a good buzz for me, is to have Broadway World behind me. Playbill just mentioned it, the books you should read this winter, you know, something like that. So that was cool. So yeah, I'm just starting to get it out into the world and be on podcasts and, you know, get some press on it. So this book can impact and reach people, because I think there's things that are so universal in all of us of splitting ourselves.
Now, what is it about the Meisner technique that resonates so strongly with you?
I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I just found it was technology and tools that I feel like I always knew. I just didn't have language for, of like, I just knew I wanted to be more truthful. And I always knew as a kid when people were lying, and I was like, I just thought that was so interesting that I felt like there was a lot of dishonesty around me growing up in a church, and everyone was like happy, and as long as you had faith and you didn't deal with anything. I just thought that was so interesting and strange, and I didn't believe it, you know, like, so I was like, what do you do if you have problems? You know, like, so we grew up thinking you don't have problems.
Are you spiritual at all?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm
very spiritual as well. I grew up also in the same environment that you did. But it's very interesting that I think that when a false sense of that kind of happiness is forced upon someone, that it's a struggle to try to live up to that. And I think that's where the struggle comes from for so many people.
Yeah, and I denied other parts of myself that I didn't know it was okay to feel loss and hurt and other things. I had no role models for that. I had no tools on how to connect to the other sides of Matt.
Well, we are going to give away a book, and but before we do that, we're going to play a little game here. My homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio.
Oh, I love this.
So I've got these questions that I pulled, and I'm reading right now a wonderful book by Brene Brown, who I love, and she's got Atlas of the Heart, and these wonderful words that resonate around us. And I'm going to ask you, in your profession, have you ever experienced envy? And if so, how you've dealt with it in your profession?
Yes, of course. Yeah, sure. I'll see a Broadway show and it's directed by someone younger than me, and I'm like, who is this? Absolutely. How have I dealt with it? Well, I think Mel Robbins, I know, talks about it. I think Brene Brown talks about it too. Like that, therefore that's in me. And I have to find that with it. Or jealousy and envy means that I'm to do some things that I feel someone else is doing that I don't have. And that means I'm called to do that too. So I think it's a sign. I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's a sign that I need to go into that direction of pursuing those things.
Yeah. Everyone, I put the wrong word in. The word is accountability, not adaptability. So make sure you put in the word accountability. Everyone who's watching, accountability, not adaptability. Listen to me. I put the wrong word in. So go in and fix that. What is the one thing about your profession that makes you the angriest and the proudest?
Accountability. I mean, really, getting people to commit to themselves, to their training. I'm so proud that I'm not a 2-year program where you have to sign up for, so therefore people stay with me for 6-7 years on and off between shows, between gigs, like a Kathy Deach. So I'm so proud of that, Richard, of loyalty that you can't sell. You can't sell loyalty. You can't. That's emotional in a human, and a connectedness like a Kathy Deach. And I'm also very frustrated when people don't commit to themselves, or it gets hard and they're not willing to try something different or let themselves be coached, even though something's not working for them. There's trusting in the willingness to commit, trust in people. When you get it, it's amazing. I'm so proud of it. When you don't get it, I've had people say to me, Richard, your class is the safest place I've ever been in my life. Same class. Your class, I don't feel safe. I mean, it's really remarkable. Or I've had people, I always joke, like, my class will either get you on meds or off of meds. I joke. But it's like, so you don't know.
Wow.
You do what you do. I'm always learning and growing, but you can't cater class for someone either. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's frustrating too, is that to have integrity, sometimes you lose people.
Wow, it's true.
It's true.
Who do you greatly admire in this business, and why?
I admire you right now doing this.
Well, thank you.
And
That's
pursuing
very good
this
of you.
and making things happen and taking risks and being like, I saw this thing on my phone and I saw you draw my book. I mean, you're a self-starter go-getter. I mean, I love that. And I've known you for years. Yeah, I think anybody, Richard, that self-starts and generates and builds a team. I mean, I'm just amazed of the amount of, or anybody that even wrote a book. Now I'm amazed by anybody that wrote a book. I'm like, that's incredible, because what goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think anybody that has their own thing. I know that's pretty general, but yeah, I'm pretty amazed by that in humans that can create their own, even like their own they open their own restaurant. Like anybody that's entrepreneurial, or like Shark Tank is like my favorite show, because
I love that show.
It has no plot. Like after being in plot all day with actors, like I need non-storyline. So I love to watch Shark Tank, because it empties my brain. I'm not in it, it's not like emotional, on that level of story, right? So I love that. I love people that take risks.
Wow. That's great. When was your most Freudian moment on stage?
Oh, I don't know. When did I have the most, either as a coach or as an actor?
Either or.
Oh gosh, I'm sure I've done a million of them. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. Do you have one?
All of my moments are Freudian moments.
I think my whole book is a Freudian moment. Yeah, I don't know if there's one time I'm like, oh, that was a Freudian slip. I don't know.
Wow, I don't know. Well,
that's a great question.
When were you most and least selfish in your profession?
I think I was the most selfish before the pandemic, and I think I was the least selfish during the height of the pandemic, adjusting to Zoom in that world and reconfiguring my life. I think my life fell apart in the best ways that needed to. Yeah, if it wasn't for the pandemic, and I think a lot of people say this too, I probably would have had a nervous breakdown anyway. I think something would have happened to me.
Wow. Well, thank God you've got your partner and you've got your dog. And so when you hear the word reverence, use it in your profession, in your career, whether it comes to your teaching or in your acting. What resonates with you with the word reverence?
Well, like an honoring of, I think of Mr. Modica, Robert Modica, for sure. There's a reverence. I think of a reverence to the work itself, the Meisner work and what it demands. And the ability to get your attention off yourself is such a powerful tool that saved my life. I think that's why I love the Meisner work too, because it demands that I have to give up me. And I think I was so obsessed with myself and my thoughts and not being okay that I needed a way out. So for me, I have such a reverence for this work. It's beyond me. It's bigger than me.
That's great. That's wonderful. Who is, and don't mention a name, who is the scariest person that you've ever encountered in this profession? And how did you get beyond that? And I don't want to name mention because this is all about celebrating.
Yeah. That's a great question. I always say I have an open door policy at MCS, but then I also have a DNR book of do not resuscitate. There's a couple names in there. I think there's some artists with some trauma that has not been dealt with, that you get them in an acting class or in a play and their director, and them to feel safe it will never happen. Do you know what I mean? Or I think trauma is some real stuff and people got to do the work on themselves. And I think class can be therapeutic. I'm not a therapist. I think it's accidentally therapy. But when it becomes like it needs to be somebody's, sometimes people just need a therapist. You know what I mean? Like it's just not going to happen in acting class. Yeah. So sometimes I have certain personalities with certain patterns, brain patterns. We all have brain patterns, right? That are really difficult to teach or be with. And I don't know if any teacher could ever get through. They're not in a space or place. So you have to sometimes let people go. And I don't like giving up on people.
Good for you. That's wonderful.
But sometimes to be healthy for the class, you got to just let some people go, Richard. And it's hard for me.
And I know that you talk about this in your book, and no spoilers because we want people to buy the book. But when did you have the weakest self-confidence ever? And how did you get beyond it?
I think I've had many seasons of that, but I think in 2018, I had some stuff with an assistant and they needed to be on the books and they were on a 1099. Like there was some stuff business stuff that I never learned, that I never knew, that I felt was not in integrity by other people. And there was some fallout, and I feel like that was hard for me. And I felt scared because it had to do with money. And I feel like I had to learn a lot about business that I didn't know. And being incorporated and running a business, it's no longer just a cute acting class where you collect money that night. Now you have a space. Now you have a lease. Now you have insurance. Now you have employees. I didn't know how to have employees or contract laborers. Like I didn't know. I was naive, and that's no excuse. I had to get educated. And I think pain is a great teacher, Richard. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of pain for me of how I dealt with things I didn't know. Now I can discipline my disappointments much better. But back then I was just reactionary. Oh. And I wish I didn't have so much fear about things then.
And this is my last question. And everyone, this is your last chance. And like I said, I made a mistake. Put in the word #accountability to win an autographed copy of this incredible book. I love it. I read it one time through when we were going to do the interview last month, and I read it again in preparation for today. I love this book. What was the most difficult thing for you to ever give up in your career?
That is a great question. First, you're going to say the most difficult thing to give up. I was going to say cigarettes. But in my career, yeah, I mean, I think the dream of, I mean, it can show up in different ways now of us going full circle of growing up in TV families. Not that I couldn't host a TV show or I'm on your TV show right now. But showing up in a different way on a TV show than I thought I would as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I would love to have a talk show. You know, I would love to, or, you know, do what you're doing right now. I love that kind of stuff.
Well,
you know?
do it.
Yeah, maybe I will. So I think the dream of
you should take what you do with your acting and you should take it to another level and do what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I could do like a show. I'll have you as my guest.
I'd love to do that. And we're going to give away a book right now, and I'll show you how this is done. I don't pick the winner. We only have two people who put it in. It's between Howard and Kassira, and we're going to find out. And it's Howard Tucker is our winner, and I will get you Howard's email address, and we will get that. Yes. Don't go anywhere for a moment. We'll get you his mailing address and get that to you. Don't go anywhere. I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. I know that I can speak for Matthew when I say this. When you take the time to show up for us, we don't take it lightly. So thank you for showing up tonight. You could have been anywhere else. You could have been watching a rerun of The Gilded Age, but you chose to be here. Matthew could have been on the beach right now, and he's here with me. So I don't take it lightly. So thank you so much, Matthew, for being here. And thank you, Howard, and everyone else. Kassira has a wonderful book you should get, Matthew, called Let That Go. Kassira and I host a show every Sunday night right here at 5 o'clock called Let That Go. It's the Let That Go show.
Oh, I love that. Well, you know, connect me with Kassira and let's swap books, Kassira and I. I would love that.
Yeah. She is phenomenal. So check her out as well. If you're here for the first time, anyone, please subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment here on YouTube and share this with your friends. My mission is to celebrate artists and their body of worth. We are approaching very soon 400 episodes. Wow. So, which I'm very, very proud of. And so all of these other artists that I've celebrated prior to Matthew, check those out. And don't let it stop there. If you see that they have a book coming out or a movie or a television special or a show, go and see them. Say that you saw them here on Richard Skipper Celebrates. Continue that celebration and let it go. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to Amazon.com and order 2 copies of this book. Keep one for yourself, and then you're going to go to the 3rd friend on your friends list on your Facebook page, and you're going to send that 3rd friend a copy of this book, and you're going to tell them about your favorite memory in the 7th grade. And you're going to tell them what they mean to you in your life. And then you're going to call them. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. A couple of weeks ago, I lost a few friends, 3 friends in 1 week. And after they passed away, I see all over Facebook, everyone telling about how much they loved them. Yesterday on my birthday, the outpouring of comments and people telling me what I meant to them. I will tear up thinking about it. It meant so much to me. And if we could do that with each other, I don't expect us to do that with everybody every single day, but it's important that we tell our friends what they mean to us. Matthew, you mean a lot to me. And I mean that. This book, I've gotten to know you so much through this book. And I hope that we will stay in touch beyond this. Nice to know that, we've known each other a long time. Yeah. But here we are spending an hour together tonight. So take the time to spend with each other. I have a dear friend, David Friedman. I think you may know him too, Matthew.
Yeah.
And David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, Matthew, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to say to everybody. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. Thank you for being here. And everybody, have a great night and an even greater tomorrow. And remember, tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, Let That Go with Kasira McKee and myself. Matthew, it's all yours.
Thank you, Richard Skipper. Applause for Richard Skipper. Richard, I just want to acknowledge in you, like, just who you are and what you stand for and what you just acknowledged in me and what you're creating here is such a cool space. And I'm just so honored to be part of it, to be your guest, that you're promoting my book and me, because it is so personal, my book. So for you to say that, it just means the world to me. And I always end my classes with gratitude, because I think gratitude is such an important thing for us to practice. And it also trains your brain to look for more gratitude, because your brain always wants to win at what you tell it to look for. So I think just ending with gratitude tonight. I mean, gratitude just for our health, and we're able to create in this year of 2022 and rebuild the businesses that we're in, and supporting theater and supporting artists and supporting, we're all in this together. I like that quote from David Friedman, and we're all on different boats. And if we can kind of all get into the harbor together, I think that's an important thing. So Richard, I just want to acknowledge you. I'm just so grateful for you. I'm grateful for this show. I'm grateful for what you were able to do in the pandemic and create and continue to do, and just what we all can do together. And if there's any way that I can support anybody or be part of something, please message me, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. I would just, any way that I can be a resource or impact more people or help, that would be wonderful. So once again, thank you for tonight. Thank you, Richard Skipper. Thank you for being part of Richard Skipper Celebrates this evening. I'm Matthew Corozine, acting coach and director, author of If You Survive 7th Grade, You Can Be an Artist. And on that, I'm going to say good night.